So we're going to go on a little journey. Okay, so Anna, obviously the host of the Young Turks, which was a huge progressive news platform for the most part. They have a YouTube channel and they had all these spin-off shows and everything. I think they were most popular in like the mid 2010s, and they've had a bit of a decline since then. Anna specifically, and and Cenk to a lesser extent, have gotten a lot of criticism from other leftists over the last few years because of this weird like pivot on certain issues. So, for example, Anna, I guess we'll get into it a little bit later because I do have the info on that poll too, but she had an encounter where she was assaulted by a homeless man. And I guess she had after that some pretty strong opinions about how, about homeless people. I'm not sure exactly what they are, and this video is not about that, so we're not going to get too into it. But people were criticizing her, saying that she was anti-homeless because of her own personal trauma or whatever, and I'm not really going to comment on that. I don't know the specifics to all of that. There was another thing where she flipped out about the term birthing person on a medical form because she felt it was demeaning to women, and so trans rights advocates on Twitter, of course, were like freaking out, saying like, well, you don't understand birthing person as a medical term, and I believe it was, to their credit in this instance, it was on a medical form because not all women, even some cis women, can't have children, right? So they can't be birthing people or whatever. So, but she took it as like kind of like a left thing, like attacking women. So sort of like a J.K. Rowling kind of, position.
J.K. Rowling route.
Yeah, sort of. So little things like that where like there's a little bit of criticism from the more extreme leftists or whatever who are more like, who try to be more socially conscious or advocate for homeless rights or whatever, who have been critical of her for some time, for the last couple years. Then this really came to a head, though, during this election cycle. Anna sort of became like a Paul-like figure in that she didn't advocate for not voting for the DNC, but she was incredibly critical of the Democrats, of Biden's, especially for the genocide. And it's right to be critical of Biden, but one thing that she also did while she was being so critical was downplaying the fascism of Donald Trump, downplaying that Trump is a fascist. And we're going to watch some clips tonight here in a bit of her doing just that. And that's really when I got the inspiration to make this video, was when I was going over that. Because as you know, one of the big overarching themes of this channel has been to destroy fascism, and Trump is a fascist, so, and he's very obviously a fascist in my mind, right? It's very silly to look at what Trump's doing and to try to excuse away the fascism of it, or to pretend like it isn't as severe as it really is. And that's something that Anna was doing prior to the election. And so she got accused at that point of doing like a grift, right? Like a kind of Dave Rubin, why I left the left sort of grift. What I will say is during the election, Cenk was very good, was a very strong anti-Trump voice. He himself making very good, strong points as to why Trump is a fascist, right? All leading up to the election. And this actually culminates, we'll see here in a bit, in a fight that they had on air about Trump being a fascist and whether they should call him a fascist or not. So, but since Trump's election, Cenk has kind of done like a sort of heel turn a little bit, like tried to soften and appeal to right-wing voters more. And so now the whole show in the last few months, more than ever before, has been facing criticism. A lot of the hosts of TYT is left. We'll get into another huge criticism that I have of them, which is basically they take shady billionaire crypto money from Peter Thiel. And so we'll get into that towards the end of the segment. There's we're going to go through a few clips here and see like a timeline of how this unfolds. So first we have this up. This is actually from years ago during Trump's first term. This is Anna talking about fascism rising around the world.
This is your ultimate guide to aspiring dictators who think democracy is...
Also, I think we're on time and a half, which is why the music sounds so distorted.
...for losers. First, we head south, where Jair Bolsonaro is the frontrunner for the presidency of Brazil. Bolsonaro is really going for a throwback retro look. Specifically, he wants to go back to how things were under dictator Carlos Ustra. How do we know this? Well, the ex-military officer once said, quote, "I'm in favor of a dictatorship."
She's pointing out how these authoritarian wannabe fascists are rising around the world, right? And how it's a very scary thing. And the reason this video is interesting is because her definition of fascism seems to be pretty loose here. She's not too concerned with doing a dictionary-specific definition of fascism. You know, just for everyone listening, fascism really, if we strip it down, it's ultranationalism plus authoritarianism, right? And that's the one thing that typifies fascism. There are many different types of fascism to very differing degrees, but typically it's a populist movement that ends up becoming a militarized movement, typically, where the military or a strong police presence is used to crack down upon the citizenry. And another thing that typifies fascism is ultranationalism, right? It's sort of like this racial, ethnic, national idea where our nation, it can transcend obviously racial lines, but it's our nation is the best. It's better than every other nation. Our nation, whatever we do is justified. We have the strongest nation. We have the best nation. And everything we do is going to be in service to the greatness of our nation. So if we have to violate human rights, lock people in, third world prison camps or whatever, that's all worth it to protect the greatness of this country. And really, those are the two facets of fascism that you're going to see consistent. And they really define every fascist system of government since the original fascist in the late 1920s, Benito Mussolini.
Like most fascist icons, Bolsonaro loves to make a statement, some homophobic, like when he said, quote, "I'd rather have my son die in a car accident."
So obviously this is, I'd rather have my son die in a car accident than have him show up dating some guy. So she's looking at Bolsonaro here, and she's saying that Bolsonaro's fascist because he's homophobic and because he wants to be a dictator, right? Which, being a homophobic dictator, that might be half of fascism, right? But it's possible to be a dictator and not be a fascist. But being homophobic really has nothing to do with fascism. You can be homophobic, and if he was, using the government to discriminate against gay people, then maybe that would be fascism. But you can be homophobic and not be fascist.
Then have him show up dating some guy. Wow, such a loving dad. He's also misogynistic, ladies. One time he told a female representative.
So because he's a bigot, he's misogynistic too. Again, those are terrible things, but they don't make him a fascist.
"I'm not going to rape you because you're very ugly."
I thought Sargon said that. Wasn't that Sargon of Akkad who said that?
I feel like it was.
Forget this classic. Quote, "You won't change anything in this country through voting.
Unfortunately, you'll only change things by having a civil war and doing the work the military regime didn't do. Killing 30,000, start with the former president. If a few innocent people die, that's all right." So yeah, basically this is...
Did Trump say that?
You can see.
He wants to kill...
Unfortunately, you'll only change things by having a civil war and doing the work the military regime didn't do. They also sell
Here.
Make Brazil Great Again shirts with his face on them. Yeah, get your...
So that's another obvious connection. So trying to be like Trump is fascist in a way, right? She seems to understand that here. And just based on this criteria, he's a dictator who doesn't care about using the military on his own civilians, and he's a bigot. That's how she seems to typify fascism here, right? So those are two of the attributes that she uses as an example of why Bolsonaro is a fascist.
Years today. Next stop, Europe, where, if memory serves, fascism was a big thing in like the 40s or something. And wouldn't you know it, Germany, Italy, and Austria have far-right movements. In Italy, Matteo Salvini runs the far-right party, the League, while looking like a really unfunny Judd Apatow. In 2012, the party only took home 4% of the vote, but now it's unfortunately a powerhouse. Who are some of Salvini's biggest influences? Well, he recently tweeted a quote from World War II fascist Benito Mussolini, and he has...
So I want to know if she
tried
actually...
to close mosques and stop refugees from entering the country. But don't call...
So he's a fascist because he tried to stop refugees from entering the country, right? Which is nationalism, which is ultranationalist in a way. It's very xenophobic. It's very much about preserving your nation's identity. That's one way that he is a fascist. Another way is that he's cracking down on mosques, she said. So she's understanding that, the demonizing of an immigrant group and coming after them specifically, that's fascist, right? So that's one thing that Anna also thinks typifies fascism in this video.
Call him racist or Islamophobic because he says, quote, "The only antidote to racism is to control, regulate, and limit immigration. Italians are not racist, but out-of-control immigration brings with it far from positive reactions. We want to prevent that." Yeah, that's right, folks. He's not racist. He just wants to eradicate other races. Austria's Freedom Party served...
I don't know about that. I don't know if you can take away what he said there and extrapolate that from it, but that is kind of the subtext, right? She's very good here at calling out and seeing through the bullshit, of calling out these strongmen for pointing out how, hey, you're an authoritarian racist who's cracking down on Muslim refugees or whatever. That makes you a fascist. It's very simple for her to make that connection during this era.
Germany has a far-right movement called Alternative for Germany.
So you'll remember that Alternative for Germany, AfD, was the political party that was hosting the rally that Elon Musk went to. or that he telecommuted into, that he Zoom called into, and said, you know, Germany needs to stop being ashamed of its past or whatever. These are ultranationalists in Germany who are far right.
Let's see if we can pick up even a subtle motif of ethnocentricity. Frank Petry, who ran the party until 2017, once suggested that German police should shoot at migrants attempting to cross into the country.
Okay, so, I mean, and that's a sentiment we hear a lot, right? From people, we'll call them border extremists. I don't know how many times have you heard someone say, like, we should have turrets on the border, right? Just gun people down as they're trying to cross. It's similar to putting, like, spikes in your river or whatever to kill people who are fucking trying to swim across. I don't know. This is
Did
a very...
you say spiky spikes?
Spiky spikes. Yeah.
Do you mean razor wire?
Yeah, razor wire. Thanks.
Good job.
It's similar to putting razor wire. It's a very Texas-coded thing to say.
Poland's Jaroslaw Krasinski has been also killing it lately, and by it, I mean democracy. How? Well, trying to pack the courts. Politico Europe reported that in 2017, his party...
So contempt for democracy is another thing that typifies fascism, right? You could say that liberal democracy and fascism are like opposites of each other. Almost the more fascist something is, the less liberal, the less democratic it is. And the more liberal, the more democratic something is, the less fascist it is. Because fascism is about autocracy, the opposite of democracy, and ultranationalism, which is sort of like the opposite of what liberal values will tell you about, people being individuals with individual rights and not just whatever country they're from.
For the wholesale, on-the-spot dismissal of the 83 top judges currently sitting on Poland's highest appellate panels.
So attacking judges here, dismissing judges, getting rid of judges, being at war with the courts in your country, that's another thing that typifies fascists, right? Trying to destroy the checks and balances on them.
All this, and he doesn't even hold elected office. He's just a party boss. Now to Scandinavia, where the term total whiteout used to describe weather events, but now it means keeping brown people away.
Those eugenicists.
In Norway.
Finns,
Yeah. Well, I think this is Sweden or Finland. This is Finland.
Have parties that want to shut off immigration from countries outside the EU. Finnish candidate Laura Huhtasaari once dog-whistled Donald Trump.
I want to welcome President Trump to Finland. It's an honor to have you here.
That's the lake that the troll is sleeping in Metalocalypse. When they go to Finland and play the grandpa instruments on the river.
No, wrong episode, but I know
is
what
it the
you're
wrong
talking
episode? No, the troll one where
Sure
they
is.
wake up the troll.
Yeah, they don't play grandpa instruments till like season 2 or 3.
Are you sure?
Yep, that's definitely a troll.
Fuck, I'm wrong. God damn it. To be fair, I haven't seen Metalocalypse in like 20 years.
This is definitely the scene, right? Like right before this, they say it.
Now it's time.
No, I'm thinking of when they summoned Mr. Crackish. This is the wrong episode.
Different
I hate you so
episode.
much.
But
Yeah.
I'm right. Why do you hate me? You should love me for
You're right,
my correctness.
because I didn't know what you were talking about. I was thinking of like a lot earlier.
Fair enough.
It's also been 20 years.
I've watched that more recently. I feel I watched like the whole
I haven't.
series in the mid 2010s probably again. Actually, I should do another rewatch. I should track those down. I might still have them somewhere. That show fucking slaps. What do you mean? It's one of the better
It
shows
does slap. I just know Mr. Crackish off the first
It's
album,
like-
which was season 1. That's
it's
why I was
like-
confused.
It's like Metalocalypse and Aqua Teen Hunger Force are the best Adult Swim
Yes.
shows. Yeah, for sure.
As we know it, we are losing Christian values and Western culture to Islam because of immigration.
So more ultranationalism here. Back to this dour shit. Yeah, so Anna's pointing out more ultranationalism on the part here. And another, again, love for Trump, right? This crazy bitch is welcoming Trump to Finland or whatever, trying to suck up to Trump.
Free speech and
So another relation between Trump and fascism.
free thinking is being restricted and labeled racism, Islamophobia, and hate speech.
Wow, look at that. She effortlessly incorporates American far-right tendencies. Like, it's not racism, it's free speech. So great to see that craze influence demagogues all the way up where Santa lives. But not to be outdone by the fascist this week, Viktor Orban of Hungary. He got less than half the popular vote, but managed to seize 2/3 control of parliament. Then he immediately rewrote the country's laws and eventually its whole constitution to consolidate even more power.
So, and you'll recall during this most recent election, Trump calling to terminate the Constitution. He's brazenly violated the Constitution dozens of times, eroding the checks and balances and usurping power for his branch that's meant for the legislative branch, those sort of things. So, I mean, we can see like this is another thing that typifies fascists, is their disregard for the law and their willingness to just change the rules to suit them.
He has a stranglehold on the press. Hungary's largest independent daily, which had uncovered a string of scandals involving the ruling party, was unexpectedly suspended in October. Soon afterward, its parent company was sold to a firm linked to an ally of Prime Minister Viktor Orban. And what's a fascist without unapologetic jingoism? He worships what he calls ethnic homogeneity because, as he puts it, too much mixing causes problems. As for refugees, he said, quote, "We don't see these people as Muslim refugees. We see them as Muslim invaders."
So, yeah, more authoritarian ultranationalism.
Visionary. That's all from the Fascist Week. Come to think of it, it seems like pretty much every week lately has been Fascist Week.
Okay, no filter, great. Yeah. So that was Anna during Trump's first term. Just where we watched that just so we can get some idea of what she considers to be fascist, which I agree with, everything she said there pretty much, And I mean, the things that really stood out to me was the way that she was able to relate the things that the leaders were doing with the definitions of what makes someone a fascist, right? And also the way that she pointed out how these are people who are welcoming Trump, who are using Trump's slogans.
Well, yeah, they were like examples chosen that reflect things that Trump is or has been doing.
Well, I mean,
back then,
both Trump and those examples happen to be fascist. This is Cenk talking about how Republicans are fascist, right? And I believe this is in regards to an Idaho bill in 2022 where Republicans were saying that if a parent supports their child's gender transition, they should be taken away from them. They should lose their parental rights.
I don't want to hear any talk from Republicans about, oh no, guys, we just have simple disagreements. We think we should bust into people's houses, take their kids away from them. We should make the decisions for them about how to treat their kids. And then if they disagree with us, we should make sure they can't leave the state and then stuff them into prison. And in Idaho, life in prison. Life in prison for loving your children. No, Republicans are ugly, they're immoral, and they're fascist. I don't want anything to do with them. That's the reality of what Republicans are today in America. So no, I don't want any BS happy talk from stupid reporters and Democrats in Washington telling us, oh, let's just all get along. I can't tell who's right or wrong. Well, the right wing or the left wing, I can't tell. Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt it, but I think I have to at this point because it's been
quick question.
Yeah.
What's worst, Venezuela or Idaho?
That's a tough one. I don't know, man. Both of them seem pretty bad. But Cenk here, first of all, this is a fire speech, right? This is how people should respond to fascism. So here again, and I pulled an article. It doesn't really have too much to do with it, but I pulled the article that we'll look at just describing like the situation he's talking about here.
And I don't want to deal with fascists. And that's exactly what these people are.
Yeah. So
These
that's
people
just, all right, calm down. That's just Cenk very strongly standing up to fascism, calling it out and saying, we're not going to fucking play that game, right? It's a good segment there. So we're getting an idea, and then Idaho lawmakers seek to punish parents who take trans youth to other states for healthcare. I'm pretty sure this is what this is in regards to because it matches up with like the same time the video came out. The Idaho House of Representatives on Tuesday passed legislation to make it a crime punishable by life in prison for a parent to seek out gender-affirming healthcare for their transgender child. We're seeing the severity of those policies start to really ramp up, said the director of advocacy and government affairs at the Trevor Project, a nonprofit organization that focuses on preventing the suicide of LGBTQ youth. Yeah, and then we can see here other like anti-trans legislation that Republicans have been passing. In the no confidence video, I think it was, I talked a little bit about like transgender rights and how there really is they're not comparable, the parties, right? The Democrats and the Republicans are on such a huge, vast gulf of difference, with the Democrats just supporting everyone's right to choose their own lives and Republicans trying to destroy trans people from existence. I talked a little bit about how there's a trans genocide, in that it's not a genocide in the way that they're rounding people, trans people up and exterminating them, but it's a genocide in that they're trying to deny them healthcare to transition. They're basically erasing them from government language. They're making it so they have to have their assigned birth genders on their government forms and everything. So in that way, it is effectively a trans genocide, in that you're taking away the right of transgender people to transition and saying that we're not going to acknowledge that you're trans, right? That sort of erasure of people, that's fascism, complete fascism. So when Anna, in her first video that we just watched, was talking about how Bolsonaro is homophobic and that makes him a piece of shit and everything, that makes him a fascist. So this surely would meet that criteria for Anna and for Cenk, and it did for Cenk, at least in that clip we watched. These Republicans are fascist. Transgender rights are one of the ways that we can really clearly see their fascism play out. Right now we can see it with trans athletes, we can see it with immigrants especially. Those are the two groups where we can actually see just textbook fascist behavior in the way that Republicans are treating them. Now, this is a video from the Majority Report with Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland. If you aren't familiar, I'm sure you all are. Here, they're going to react to a clip. This is more recent. This was towards the end of the last election, where Trump won re-election. This is Anna and Cenk arguing about whether or not we should call Trump a fascist. And this is the Majority Report reacting to it. I pulled this video just because I couldn't find the raw 1 minute clip or whatever of them arguing. So here we go.
Trump is deeply racist and he says deeply racist things, okay? I want to make a distinction between Donald Trump, the person who says and does racist things, and the notion of a fascist. Because look,
so she wants to make a distinction between Donald Trump being a racist and Donald Trump being a fascist. And first of all, I just want to say Trump's racism, while horrible, is not what makes him a fascist, right? His authoritarianism is what makes him a fascist. Trying to overthrow the government, trying to destroy the election process, that makes him a fascist. Him trying to get the National Guard to fire upon protesters, that makes him a fascist. Him suing media organizations, and now that he's president again, using the FCC to crack down on people who are critical of him, that's what makes him a fascist, right? He's also a in addition to that, but his racism is not the main thing that makes him a fascist. That's sort of a misrepresenting the argument.
If we're just going to use fascist toward anyone we dislike,
we're not. I dislike Anna, and I don't think she's a fascist. She's she's at very worst a fascist collaborator, but most likely a useful idiot for fascism, like some other people that we've talked about. So there's that, right? I don't use it on everyone I dislike.
All right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator?
Sure, you can say wannabe dictator, but I don't even...
But I mean, that would also be, that's one of the main things of fascism, right? That's half of fascism. You're halfway there. And then you just couple that with Trump. His first ever thing was about building the wall and kicking out a bunch of immigrants. He's been one of the most anti-immigrant presidents ever. He's a complete fascist.
Wants to be a dictator.
Denying that Trump is fascist in 2017 was fucking crazy. Denying Trump is fascist in 2024 when this was is delusional. It's dishonest. It's complete bullshit. You've seen everything. There's no way that you can even pretend Trump isn't a fascist at all.
Of course he does. That's what you do when you lose an election and you go, oh, I got fake electors. And I like to terminate the Constitution and bring up...
Okay, yeah, I'm going to maybe cut out their commentary. But yeah, so basically, Cenk is coming back and saying, of course Trump is a fascist. Of course he has dictatorial aspirations, right? Anna's trying to downplay that, which is crazy because she watched everything Trump did. She's known this for years. So why now suddenly does she have this opinion that maybe Trump isn't such a bad dictator? Maybe he doesn't want to be an autocrat. Why would she think that? Nothing has happened since Trump taking office when she held that position to now to make her rethink it. Trump has become more fascist, not less fascist as the years have gone on. His entire time as non-president was was like was like plotting fascism, was like saying a bunch of fascist shit about how we should terminate the Constitution. Yeah, it's so unhinged to even be downplaying this so close to the election too. Or maybe this was just after the election, I don't know.
Out the tanks and use martial law against American citizens and shoot protesters. I mean, if that's not fascist, then I guess the word just shouldn't exist.
But
yeah, Trump is a textbook fascist.
was he able to do those things?
That's her argument. The National Guard didn't shoot the protesters, so Trump isn't a fascist. So Anna's making an argument that you're only fascist if you succeed in your fascism. But no, you're a fascist if you have fascist intent, right?
His entire cabinet had to threaten, not cabinet, administration, his White House team had to say, we're all going to mass resign if you roll out tanks against American citizens.
Okay, so if you think...
Right, so, I mean, this is sort of like, a fascist is someone who uses the military on their population. Trump tried to do that, but he failed, so he's not a fascist, is the argument that Anna's making. Which is just apologia for fascism, right? She's excusing away Trump's fascism. She's saying it's not really fascism. I guess it's more than apologetics. It's fascism denial.
I think he's a fascist. Wouldn't that justify taking physical action against him?
Yes.
No, because that doesn't help. That devolves us further into fascism.
Well, it's justified, but it's not smart. Like, you shouldn't do it, but you are justified in doing it.
Straw man.
Exactly.
Can you pause it,
There's
actually?
a difference between somebody...
So that's pretty much, I think that's it. I want to see if they go back to it here at some point. No, I don't think they do. So anyways, that's what I wanted to show you, right? It's Anna and Cenk basically debating whether Trump is a fascist, and Cenk making really good points, like this is how Trump's a fascist, and Anna disingenuously trying to excuse away Trump's fascism, right? And why would she be doing that with all the information we have, with everything we've seen? This was just before the election, right? So this was already, he had talked about terminating the Constitution. He was already a convicted felon at this point too. So it's wild to me. But we're seeing a journey from her calling out fascists around the world, pointing out very obvious fascist things they do, to now 6 years later, or whenever this was, 5 years later, her not being able to make the connection between Trump's fascist ambitions and actual fascism. Seems pretty wild to me. I don't know. So she, of course, got terrible backlash to this, right? And so she went on to post this tweet. Okay, fine. I'll bite. Fascism requires a militarized citizenry, conquest imperialism, the elimination of our governing bodies, and the notion that anyone who isn't part of a master race should be massacred. That's not what fascism requires, right? Those are things that typify fascism. All of those are fascist things, right? Militarized citizenry. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means like they use the military on the citizens, or the citizens are all packing and ready to fight or whatever. But that's not a requirement to be a fascist, to have a fascist government. Militarism in general is sort of a requirement, right? And America is highly militarized. And Trump, in that example, in the argument they were having, tried to use the military against American citizens. So even though fascism doesn't require that, Trump absolutely fits that bill. Conquest imperialism, Trump absolutely fits that bill with his imperialist ambitions towards Greenland, towards Canada, the Panama Canal, towards Gaza, right? These are all ways that Trump has been imperialistic, expansionist, certainly towards Greenland, Canada, and Panama, and Gaza especially. He's a complete imperialist. He does have imperial aspirations, the elimination of our governing bodies. Trump, again, prior to this even happening, had called for the elimination of the Constitution and had tried to overthrow the government who had basically led an insurrection against Congress, right? Congress was the building that they attacked on January 6th. In case Anna forgot that somehow, since Trump has been in office, he's called for the removal of judges who oppose him. So that's the third branch of the government, the judicial branch. He's arrested a judge, right? He's disregarded all the orders from the court. So he's eliminated so many checks and balances in these bureaucracies on him. He's usurped the power of Congress, and the notion that anyone who isn't part of a master race should be massacred. So again, that's not necessary for fascism. It's possible to be a fascist without doing the ethnic massacring or whatever, the genocide. But you can look at the xenophobia of fascism, right? It's really more about ultranationalism than it is about racism. And Trump absolutely fits that bill. Right now, we are sending American citizens. We're deporting American citizens who are terminally ill. It's completely ridiculous to even pretend like that Trump doesn't wield state violence against immigrants. Weird thing to label a guy who brags about not starting any new wars. Trump can brag about not starting any new wars, but that doesn't mean he hasn't committed war crimes or taken military actions, right? Obama also didn't start any new wars, but he still did military actions in new countries, just like Trump. Such a stupid thing. And also, it doesn't matter if you brag about it or not, you can still do it without saying you're doing it. He also passed criminal justice reform and personally pardoned black inmates who were serving life sentences for drug crimes who Obama was unwilling to pardon. That's a non sequitur, right? So what she's saying is that you're saying that Trump is fascist for all these reasons, but here's one thing he did that wasn't fascist, that was actually good. That's ridiculous. Like, it's possible for fascists to be, racist, for example, against one group, against immigrants, to treat immigrants in a racist way, but to like black people still, right? And it could be the case that he pardoned black inmates, but he still feels like they're inferior to him. And I mean,
right.
That's not an argument for why he isn't a fascist. That does nothing to refute any of the accusations of him being a fascist. But I'm the fucking stupid one, okay? You are fucking stupid. You're either really fucking stupid or really fucking disingenuous. This is either calculated, which makes you a fascist collaborator, or you're fucking stupid, which makes you a useful idiot for fascism. So as this arc was going on for Anna, she had one of these I left the left moments. This is her on the Jillian Michaels show. Are you familiar with who Jillian Michaels is?
The name is vaguely familiar, but no, I don't.
So there was a show when we were kids called The Biggest Loser, where it was like a reality show where they would take like morbidly obese people and send them to fitness camp for a month and then send them back into the world. She was one of the trainers on that show. So that's how she rose to popularity. She had a like kind of a woke arc when she like came out as a lesbian and everything. And then she had sort of an anti-woke arc now when she's anti, the left or whatever. But Anna went on her show to talk about her beef with the left. So we'll watch just a minute or two of this to kind of get a general idea of where Anna is at. This is during the same time as the clip we just watched with her arguing with Cenk about Trump's fascism.
There's homeless people everywhere, right? So I've never had problems. I didn't think anything of it. But as I was bending down to pick up my dog's mess, one of the guys like grabs me by my hips and he had an erection. Oh God. And just starts like humping me. And
this is terrible, by the way. So she's describing an assault from a homeless person who like sexually assaulted her, which is terrible. I love Jillian Michaels' like fake empathy here. Like, oh, that's terrible, girl.
And
fake empathy.
Wow. Yeah. You didn't think so?
Hates women.
Hold on. You tell me what this is here.
And he had an erection. Oh God. And just started.
Seems genuine enough.
Does it? Okay.
It's like humping me. I didn't know what to do. I opened up about this on the show, not really thinking much of.
I want to know how that ended. Like, did she get away or what? Like, why would you cut that out?
Well, obviously she got away.
Yeah. Right. I know she got away, but holy shit.
Of it. And before I know it, I'm starting to get these messages and it's like really, really harsh stuff. And it's about how you are painting a picture of the homeless community.
Okay, so basically what she's saying here is that she was assaulted by a homeless person. She talked about it on the show, and then a lot of like homeless rights advocates got pissed at her because she was painting like the general narrative of homeless people in a negative way, right? And I think that's terrible. Like if this happened to Anna, she has every right to talk about it. And it is a problem too. And I think Anna's in LA, or at least was during this. There's a huge homeless problem in LA. That doesn't mean that homeless people should be rounded up or whatever. I don't really see how this is Anna dehumanizing homeless people to talk about when one assaulted her, right? Obviously not all homeless people are the same either. I know homeless people who aren't just violent assaulters. So...
how could you be like this? These are your unhoused neighbors and they need help. What?
That face.
It's... What? No way. Dude, Jillian Michaels is like Tucker Carlson, right? With the faces? You don't
Take
see
your
it?
word for it.
Okay.
A few people accused me of being racist when I had never disclosed the race of the individuals who did this to me. And in fact, they were white.
They eat their own, mama.
Some of the people.
They eat their own, mama.
Sometimes you gotta eat your babies.
Now, here's what I'm going to say. Obviously, this is terrible. If this actually happened the way that Anna's describing it, with the reaction that she got, even if it is the case that some of the more extreme people on the left, or like the Twitter left or whatever, totally like dismissed what she was saying and used it as a way to attack her. That's terrible. That's not a good reason to abandon your political ideology, right? Your political ideology should be based on your principles and not how other people, right? Not how other lefties treat you. That to me, like, it shows like you're tribal minded, right? You're using groupthink to make your ideology up, when you should be using like your own reasoning, your own morality. So this shows kind of like a moral failing if this is true, if what we're seeing here is true. If I had this traumatic experience, I tried to talk about it, and these people who are on my side, they didn't react the way I wanted to, therefore I don't believe in the things I used to believe in.
People.
They eat their own on the extreme left.
Anna's.
Okay, so this is The Hill talking about that clip. We're not going to watch that. Instead, we're going to read Unaligned, You're Right, I've Changed by Anna Kasparian, September 30th, 2024. This is going to be Anna talking about her journey of leaving the left after Trump came onto the political scene, and especially after he was elected. The us versus them mentality immediately took shape. Anyone who refused to resist Trump was seen as a threat to the country, and I was fully on board with that mindset. The year now is 2025. Anyone who refuses to resist Trump is a threat to the country. You're a fascist collaborator. You're the enemy. The things you do hurt the country. Either they're evil enough to openly support a fascist, or they're too stupid to realize they're doing it, which either way is bad. It all felt righteous at first. It's not about being righteous. It's about you're at war and you need to acknowledge that. But eventually, the tactics deployed to fight Trump became repetitive, boring, and ultimately fruitless. And again, that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Like, what do the tactics have to do with whether or not you are a bad person for supporting something? Polling shows that he increased support among Black and Latino voters, despite wall-to-wall coverage of his unsavory, racist, and bigoted remarks. Several years of media raising alarm over Trump's threat to democracy has only resulted in a tight presidential race between him and Harris. Now, what are some other reasons that Black and Latino voters can have for supporting Trump, right? The egg prices, right? It's like because they're not smart enough to realize, and this isn't Black and Latino people aren't smart enough. This is that American voters were not smart enough to realize that Trump, they blamed everything on Biden. They blamed Biden for the terrible economy. They didn't see the ways that Biden was better than Trump. It's a failure in that. It's not that, oh, you're racist telemarketing or whatever, your campaign against Trump was ineffective. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But regardless of the campaign against Trump, the reason people voted for him was because of the referendum on the economy, right? I can't help but acknowledge that the only thing that was accomplished by resisting Trump was less understanding and more division among Americans. I became reluctant to challenge my side or engage with voters who disagreed with me. As a result, I became less knowledgeable about the people and world around me. I saw Republican voters as an evil monolith. That was a big mistake. My evolution started in 2022. Okay, so before we get to that, so she said she saw Republican voters as an evil monolith, and that was a big mistake. Republican voters are not a monolith. It's possible for them to be individually evil, right? Like, it's possible for supporting dehumanizing immigrants, black bagging them, taking them to another country without due process. Supporting that makes you a piece of shit. Individually, you are individually a bad person if you support those things. That's so un-American. So maybe not every Republican voter is an evil monolith, but the people who still in 2025 support Trump, you're either not paying attention, so you're a completely dangerous idiot, or you knowingly support everything he's doing, or knowingly support him being in power at least, which makes you a collaborator with the enemy and the enemy. My evolution started in 2022 when I was assaulted by a homeless man while walking my dog. That horrible experience alone didn't change me politically, but the treatment I received from the far left and some progressives after sharing the story did. Okay, so yeah, fuck her, right? Like, this is her saying that, you know, my experience with that homeless person didn't change my politics, and it shouldn't, because that would be ridiculous. But what did change my politics was the way that other people who agreed with me politically treated me personally. And that's really dumb. That's really dumb, and that shows that you don't have principles. If that's how yeah.
Twitter had red pilled Anna Kasparian like they did J.K. Rowling.
Maybe she'll get into the birthing person's thing on here. We'll see. I was told by publicly sharing what had happened to me, I was stigmatizing my unhoused neighbors. Others accused me of feeding into racist tropes because they assumed the attacker was black. Not only did I suddenly see the flawed thinking of some on the left, I also witnessed their cruelty and hypocrisy in real time. But this is the extreme left, right?
Yeah,
you already acknowledge that this is the extreme left. Yeah, these terrible traits that I had. I feel like I'm on the extreme left, and I don't feel like this shit. I wouldn't have this take, right? I wouldn't be like, you're stigmatizing homeless people. Yeah,
unhoused neighbors, you mean?
Yeah, my unhoused neighbors, I guess. I also witnessed their cruelty and hypocrisy in real time. The terrible traits I associated solely with my political opponents were obviously not exclusive to their tribe. Yeah, so you're an idiot because you have a no true Scotsman fallacy for a worldview, right? Like, no true liberal would ever be a piece of shit. Like, of course, there are people who agree with us who are pieces of shit. Guess what, Anna? There are people on the left who are rapists, who are probably murderers, right? No. We have bad people on our side too. That doesn't mean that our side is wrong. That doesn't mean that the arguments we make are invalid, right? Our critiques of culture and the things that should happen politically do not hinge upon like the moral character of the person making the argument. This is just an ad hominem. This is fallacious thinking. That doesn't mean everyone on the left thinks or behaves in this way, the way this small group of lunatics do. Far from it. But it does mean that there are factions and flaws on both sides of the aisle, and no one has a monopoly on truth. Right, because something is true whether or not people believe it or not, and it's possible for anyone to believe in something that's not true, and it's possible for anyone to believe in the truth for a stupid reason, right? And that doesn't change whether something is true or not. The fact that in the year 2022, when you were fucking 40 whatever years old, you came to the realization that, oh my God, my side isn't filled with people who are morally flawless is fucking wild. Okay. Then there was this insane reaction to one of my tweets in the following year, in 2023. I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. I'm so happy she brought this up.
Stunning and brave.
How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit. Why is that degrading? Why is it degrading to refer to someone as a person with a uterus?
Because attacking women is supporting trans people is attack a woman. It's a common turf argument.
Yeah, but not every woman.
It's reducing her to her like
not every cisgender person, not every cisgender woman is a woman with a uterus, right? Some women are born without uteruses, but still have XX chromosomes, right? A lot of women
taking it like reducing her to her biological function of producing children.
Right, but this is a very clinical way of talking about a person that's relevant to like the issue, like birthing person because it's a medical term, right? Person who menstruates, because not all cisgender women menstruate. What about postmenopausal women? Yeah, or what about women who just don't get their periods because they're on birth control, or who don't have normal periods because of whatever issue? Like, these are very specific things that don't describe all women. So you're a woman, but also you're a person with a uterus, right? Those are two distinctions. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a gender atheist.
True.
You can support
a gender abolitionist.
No, I don't. Well, yeah, I mean, sort of. But I'm a gender atheist, right? I'm an atheist, but also I'm an anti-theist. I guess. I don't
Would
believe
your,
I don't believe in gender, but also I think that it's bad for society. All hell broke
Would your,
loose. Yeah.
would you be called Elsa gender hater if you were in Oblivion instead of Elsa god hater?
Have you played the
Anyway.
remaster?
I installed it.
I've been playing it a little bit. I wanted to do a Necmento build run, but you can't do. I spent like 20 or 30 minutes crafting the perfect Necmento face, and then when I got to the
you can't.
no, because they added beards. They added beards, but they didn't
did
add
they?
they didn't add the mutton chops though. So like
They
I
don't
either
just,
had
like,
to
color
do
your
just
cheeks?
yeah. No, they don't. They added beard. They added facial hair, but it's basic. It's like you can either have a full beard or like a goatee or whatever, but you can't do like the Lemmy, you know, which is what Paul did. So I can't do a Necmento run.
Anyway, back to the
So,
video.
most friends, quote unquote, in left-wing media didn't bother reaching out privately to discuss their disagreement with my personal preference. Instead, many self-described socialists took it upon themselves to profit from conflict by publicly attacking me with monetized videos. Okay. Isn't this monetized what we're doing right now? Isn't this so you could sell Substack subscriptions or whatever? A smaller leftist YouTube show, I'm pretty sure that's about the Vanguard, put out 5 separate videos skewering me about the tweet while conveniently erasing the advocacy I had done on behalf of the transgender community throughout my career. They even went as far as drawing a line between my tweet and trans suicides, which sadly wasn't the most unhinged outcome of the debacle. So, I mean, it seems like this is a weird attack on transgender rights, specifically because you malign this as being like a transgender thing, right? I don't think like a transgender person is a transgender woman who wants to be recognized as a woman isn't trying to make a distinction between them and someone with a uterus, right? Necessarily. I feel like this is something like it's typically a biological reductionist cisgender person saying like, you're not a woman because you don't have a woman's biology, because you don't menstruate or have a uterus or whatever chromosome. So that's why you're not a real woman, is typically the argument. So this is almost like a reverse that argument, sort of. She's doing like a reverse racism, but for trans people, saying that trans people are the ones trying to make all these distinctions, and you can support them without doing this, I guess. The Young Turks volunteer YouTube chat moderators quit over the tweet, and someone reported me to Human Resources. An on-air transgender contributor even resigned from the company after being urged by online mobs and leftist shows to do so. Curious that not one of these shows hired her after she took their advice. I never apologized for the tweet, and I never will. I mean, you don't really have to apologize for it. It's more your reaction of not understanding why you upset all these people, right? Whatever. I mean, if the Vanguard, their whole shtick is like criticizing you, so that'd be like Paul getting mad because I criticize him or something. It's like that's a big part of the channel, right? Is what we do here. Has. Well, he has, but I'm saying like that would be like him leaving the left over it. Which
are you sure it hasn't already happened?
I feel like he did before that. I don't know.
True.
Yeah, the videos were a reaction to that more than anything. Not that he's left the left in this way, but you know what I mean.
Of course not. He would never.
No, he would never. He's the only real leftist.
Only true leftist out there.
Yep. He would never make these criticisms against Anna. But the point is, like, if you have a transgender coworker who reported you to Human Resources and who quit because they felt like you were attacking them with your tweet. And I don't know if it was just the tweet or if it was like your defense and reaction to it, but yeah, this is sort of like, I didn't apologize, I'm so crazy. And it's like, yeah, that probably wasn't overblown reaction to it. I don't know. I'm trying to remember this. I sort of remember it when it was happening, but didn't pay too much attention. The whole experience forced me to come to terms with the intolerance on the left, and it allowed me to publicly reject the ideological shackles that kept my world small and less informed. That's so crazy to me. You were a reporter, weren't you? Like, didn't you do like report pieces and segments and everything? Like, you were a journalist for sure, maybe not a reporter, but I don't know. The whole experience forced me to come to terms. You should already be aware of like intolerance on the left, right? Like, you should know that there are bad leftists too. Not everyone on the left is perfect. And you, as someone who observed the world for nearly 40 years of your life, shouldn't have just like, you should have already been questioning your ideology, right? You shouldn't be shackled by just who agrees with you and whether your community or whatever is validating you. That's not a good way. That doesn't make you moral. That makes you a follower, right? That's profoundly immoral to just to assign your ideology based on groupthink. Today, I'm less certain and more curious than I was 4 years ago. I've made humiliating mistakes while covering political news because I was previously unwilling to consider or understand the perspective of Americans who vote differently than me. Yeah, so really, like, the most embarrassing thing you've ever done is probably say that Trump wasn't a fascist because he wasn't successful enough in being a fascist. That's pretty humiliating. I don't know. What to expect from Unaligned. I'm hungry for dialogue, a space for in-depth analysis and a judgment-free zone. That is what I plan to do here. Every week, I will provide subscribers with 2 or 3 written pieces that dig deeper into the big stories of the week with the intention of finding truth rather than promoting a political side. Video posts sharing details on breaking news and political events. A weekly podcast beginning in November that will feature long-form discussions and debates with guests from all walks of life. The Gavin Newsom strategy. Engagement with me in the comment section for paid subscribers. So pay to comment, join me and be part of the dialogue. So I wonder if this happened. Did she actually do a weekly podcast starting in November of last year?
We could find out.
Yeah, we could. Or you could while I read this if you wanted to. The point of this new project is the pursuit of intellectual freedom and open-mindedness. I want to nurture curiosity without fear of offending the sensibilities of loyal partisans. I wouldn't describe people on the far left as loyal partisans, right? A lot of them are accelerationists and they don't believe in partisanship in the same way that, like, someone like me who votes pragmatically would. I reject arguments about the evils of platforming people who are considered too naughty to converse with, like the Vanguard. I want to facilitate dialogue. I don't know what my political identity or label is, and I'm not even sure I want to be pigeonholed. This is my effort in pursuing extreme honesty and humility in the quest for common ground and without the constraints of tribal identity. Yes. Nothing says extreme humility like, I never apologize for the tweet and I never will. Extreme humility. Jesus. I want to see some of the comments here. I am not altogether on anybody's side because nobody is altogether on my side, if you understand me. Treebeard. The first time I read those words, I couldn't understand how much I would come to relate to them. Did you not read the rest of that book? Like, what happens? Hold on. This attitude of Treebeard gets all the trees near Isengard cut down, right? And then he has to go to war anyways and destroy Isengard, right?
It's the movie. It's the exact same thing happens.
The same thing happens in the movie. Wait. The whole moral of Treebeard is that this is not the appropriate way to handle things.
Yeah.
Right? Bro, come on. This is like, you know, when Frodo said, I just want to stay in the Shire and not go to Mordor, I really related to that. I didn't realize how right he was.
Cottagecore.
When Aragorn said, I'm not going to be the king, he was really right about that. Well, I understood. I related.
That was only in the movie.
The whole point of Lord of the Rings is about people stepping up, individuals doing their part that they don't want to do to fight fascism, really, to fight Sauron, right? Who's like the ultimate epitome of fascism. Isengard, sort of what Treebeard specific. Why am I getting into Lord of the Rings analysis? Whatever. But Saruman in Orthanc, in Isengard here, that Treebeard is talking about, he represents industry, right? And the way that industry is totalitarian and destroys the natural world and ultimately is sort of like the useful idiot for fascism in the way that Saruman is played by Sauron. With promises of power, and it ultimately just leads to his undoing. Lord of the Rings is based. You guys should check it out, but if you haven't, if you're one of those people.
Spoilers.
But yeah, I am not, but this whole quote, this describes like when Merry and Pippin, they get rescued from orcs by Treebeard, the same orcai that Elon Musk genetically modified in that one episode.
GMOs.
Yeah, they get rescued. They get rescued by Treebeard. And then they try to convince Treebeard to help them fight against Isengard. And Treebeard refuses because he's saying that they're neutral and that they don't have a stake in this world, right? They don't have a stake in the war. But then Treebeard is able to, you know, he's forced when he stumbles upon, due to some thinking on the part of Merry and Pippin, they find a way to make Treebeard see what his neutrality, what his inaction leads to. And it's sort of that old adage that, you know, all evil needs to triumph is for good people to do nothing. He sees that all these trees, right? His whole job is to shepherd the forest of Fangorn and to resist the industry of Saruman. And he sees that, well, now Saruman has cut down all these innocent trees that he was supposed to protect, right? The trees got genocided because of his inaction, basically. And that forces him to go to war and tear down the dam and drown all of Saruman's like lackeys and trap him in the tower. And the whole thing, though, is that Treebeard is forced to go to war, and he should have acted sooner to prevent the suffering that was caused ultimately by his inaction, or that was aided by it. So this person, James, this idiot, just totally missed the point of Treebeard.
And so
Fuck
did Anna
you.
Kasparian.
So did Anna. I don't know if Anna's even read Lord of the Rings.
No, she liked the comment.
Yeah, I read Lord of the Rings when I was 6, motherfucker. So glad to see you here, Anna. I 100% agree with your tweet, but I will go further and say that the pejorative cis is offensive and meant to other natural women and men.
Damn.
Natural.
Isn't cis also a banned word on Twitter?
I don't know. The label cis explicitly means we all have a gender identity, and this gender identity takes priority over biological sex. It has already ceded all the ground.
It literally means on the side of in Latin.
Hetero dork. I wonder if this guy is super straight. Real deep thinkers who understand the point of things. Okay. So Trump has now become president again, and the fascism of Trump is now more apparent than ever before. We're going to watch them reacting to Elon Musk Sieg Heiling.
Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. This one really matters. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Hey guys, just real quick, what happens to fascists? What happens to fascists when they're out of power? Historically, what happens to fascists? Every time you see one of these disgusting pieces of shit flaunting their Nazi bullshit in front of you, remember what happens historically to people like this.
Elon Musk is sucking all the air out of the room today due to that gesture that he made while speaking at Trump's inauguration.
She is such a Karen. Holy shit. Everything she says is just reeking of like that fucking indignant, like, how dare you kind of attitude.
Rally on Inauguration Day. Now, the big question, did Musk intend on doing a Nazi salute? Because that's what it appeared to be. Or is he just an awkward guy who's on the spectrum and didn't realize that as he was expressing himself and his excitement, he came across as someone doing the Nazi salute?
I've known a few people. I've known a few people on the spectrum who get, you know, who have their twerks. Who have their stimming. Yeah, who have their stimming moments or their quirks or their like tweaks or whatever, who will make like weird noises or whatever, like sort of like Tourette's adjacent behavior, I would say, who like do hand stuff sometimes. I've never like met an autistic person who just had to Sieg Heil when they were overwhelmed with excitement, you know? That's never happened. Not yet. Well, I mean Elon, but other than him. Elon.
Now, before we adjudicate this, let's take a look at another angle that shows him doing the gesture not once, but twice.
Making it happen. Thank you.
All right. Now, when he does it, he says something along the lines of, you know, my heart goes out to you, which provides some plausible deniability. And look, the first time I saw the video, he is on the spectrum and he does express himself physically in awkward ways at times. So
I hope that she says but.
I don't know. Is she going to defend Elon Musk? Is she going to be like, actually, he is just autistic, guys?
I mean, Paul did defend Elon.
Paul has something far worse than autism.
For sure, like what was going on. But after watching the video a few times, watching the other angle, I think your theory is the correct theory, Cenk. So I want to go to you.
Yeah. So look, we're doing a poll on it in the live chat. Watch the show live.
You guys pay to become a member so you can vote in the Is Elon Musk a Nazi poll.
6 to 8 p.m. Have your voice heard. So
he's very shiny.
He just glistens and everything.
The troller in chief. That was definitely a Nazi salute, in my opinion. And is it because he's an actual Nazi? I hope not. But now it's
Did Elon Musk intentionally do a Nazi salute? Yeah, he did it twice.
Slightly in question, but the main thing is he loves getting the attention, and he knows that the wilder and the crazier thing he does, the more attention he's going to get. That looked like a Nazi salute. Okay, that is Sieg Heil.
Yeah, it did, because it was a Sieg Heil, right? He went from his chest, like he did multiple Sieg Heil. It's not like he just raised his hand with his fingers closed for some reason. Like, right?
Also, I believe Nick Fuentes was also like weirded out by the outwardness of the Sieg Heils from Steve Bannon and from Elon Musk.
Right, and I don't know if we talked about it, but there was definitely in one of the earlier videos where we talk about this in greater detail, I posted like, we talked about whether it was or wasn't and why I think it was a Nazi salute, and how Elon Musk has a long history of basically doing Nazi dog whistles and affirming Nazis on his social media echo chamber. And also, though, I posted an article about how Nazis are viewing it, and other Nazis are saying, yeah, it's a fucking Sieg Heil. Like, other Nazis agree that it's a Nazi salute. Libs like me agree that it's a Nazi salute. From the far left to the far right, we know what he's doing. Everyone can tell.
And if you notice on the second one, in the first one, he put it on his heart and then did this sign. And that's his plausible deniability. What? I was just saying from my heart, right? But look at on the second one, he forgets to put it on his heart.
No, he didn't. He did put it on his heart. Idiot. You just watched it. The salute is
faster.
the salute is from your chest to the fucking the hand thing, right? So the salute comes from the chest. So he does it from my heart to you, and he does it. I don't know why he's Bernie. And then he turns around and he quickly does it again. Instead of putting his hand up and waving, he does the salute from the chest again. He does it again.
Sieg Heil, then he puts it on his heart.
No, he doesn't.
No.
No, watch it. What are you doing?
But look at on the second one, he forgets to put it on his
Right there. Everyone saw it.
heart.
No,
and
he
just
puts it
Sieg
on.
Heil,
Classic
then he
Cenk
puts
user.
it on his heart.
No, he does it in the beginning too, and the second time.
No, here, run it again. I didn't see it.
Okay, watch
I didn't see it.
carefully,
Okay,
because he
so
does.
because I think
Wait, run it again. Make him watch it. Make
he
him
puts
watch it
on
again.
his heart afterwards.
He does.
No, he does both. He puts it on his
Bro.
heart, and then he does it, and then he puts it on his heart again.
Because he
Afterwards.
forgot to put it on his heart the first time around.
Okay, let's
I
play-
think, but let's take a look.
All right, so there he is. He does it in the front. Then
There's a lot of energy in that too. He's biting his
Not
lip
only
like
that, the
he's about to
German media
fucking
also
bust a
censored
nut
it.
or something.
and he turns around. Are there people? Like, is there?
Look,
No, I don't. All right, anyway, it doesn't.
Wow.
no, he doesn't. He's just buttoning his coat real
Fucking-
quick.
He went. I don't think he put it on his heart. That's why he did it afterwards. Anyways, it doesn't matter. What matters is the way
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. Like,
he did it. It wasn't, I just raised my hand and I waved. He did a salute. So
Even Cenk Uger, who doesn't even realize it was the second time, knows it was a salute.
it was a salute, right? Yeah.
anyways, look, guys, mission accomplished for Elon Musk. Everybody's talking about it. But when guys, even if it's just to get attention, when you're doing Sieg Heils,
That was a sick Heil, bro.
A sick Heil. Skateboard trick.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
disconcerting, deeply troubling. That
Yeah.
means there are no boundaries. There's no bounds left.
Look, the one thing
Yeah, it's fascist, right? It's fascist.
that I know
It's a fascist dog whistle from a fascist to a crowd of fascists.
without a shadow of a doubt is that these guys get their rocks off on making people on the left panic and freak out. And so
Yes.
they intentionally troll.
Right.
Yeah, these guys really
do.
get off on making people who pay attention freak out. It's like, holy shit.
They do, but they also continue on enacting fascist policies.
You could say their entire self-worth comes from it, actually.
And they intentionally do things to get the kind of reaction that Elon Musk, congratulations, got today.
Right, so he intentionally did it. He did it, but he didn't mean it. He meant to do it, but he didn't mean it in that way. Is that the argument she's about to make?
You got both
I have a
sides.
lot
of
of
it.
issues with Elon Musk. I don't think he's a Nazi.
Wow.
I don't think he's a Nazi, okay? I don't. all he does is try to destroy democracy as an authoritarian union bus, which is also something the Young Turks have done,
this
allegedly.
is before all that.
No,
Right?
this is after he had already paid hundreds of millions of dollars to help Donald Trump get elected.
He hadn't seized the
Yeah, well, I mean, this
thing.
might have been right before.
Yeah.
Like, this all happened around the same time as Doge, but that was within the first week or two of Trump's presidency. So this was right around that time. You know, so he's a Nazi. He's an apartheid Nepo baby who has racialist views, right? He's a neo-monarchist devotee of Curtis Yarvin. He's an oligarch. These are all fascist things, right? These are all extreme authoritarian, anti-democratic things. He's in some sort of, he believes in race replacement theories. He tweets out Nazi shit on Twitter. He retweets and affirms Nazis on Twitter and Nazi conspiracy theories on Twitter. So he thinks like a Nazi. He speaks like a Nazi. He does hand salutes like a Nazi, and he hangs out with Nazis. He's probably a fucking Nazi. A weird Nazi douchebag is what he seems to be.
Okay, remember, just a few weeks ago,
No, he's just a troll, guys. It's possible for you to be a troll and also a Nazi.
short weeks ago, MAGA was going after him over him wanting to loosen restrictions and the cap on H-1B visas because he wants to bring more high-skilled Indian workers into the country.
Right, so he can exploit them, right?
It's not exactly something a Nazi would want to do.
Like, Nazis never exploited foreign labor. Like, what?
You can't be Nazi if you're brown.
Yeah, and first of all, like, it's possible that on that one specific issue, he's not a Nazi. Like, he's not anti-Indian immigration, right? But he is anti-other types of immigration. There are several ways that he can still be a Nazi, but have one position that isn't like a Nazi. Also, there's 80 years between now and the downfall of Hitler, right? So you can still be a Nazi, but their opinions have changed a little bit. Just like you can still be a Democrat, but you're different than FDR was in some regards, right?
Okay, I don't think he's a Nazi. I do think he's a grade A troll, and I think he enjoys being the center of attention. And all day today, he's been the center of attention on social media.
Explain Elon Musk's Nazi fucking tweets then. Him retweeting Nazis about like the race replacement theory and shit.
By the way, the ADL that's supposed to protect...
Yeah, explain him going to Germany at an AfD rally around the same time this was happening, by the way, and telling them to stop being ashamed of their past.
Jews in America gave him a total pass on it. They never, ever would have done that before.
Oh, wait, hold on. The Anti-Defamation League gave him a pass? They're basically I don't know if I should say this. The ADL is not an objective participant in knowing what is and isn't fascist, right? They're not. The ADL will accept fascism if it seems to fit a certain narrative. We're not going to go into the ADL in this video. But also, I believe the ADL afterwards came out and said, oh yeah, actually it was Nazi shit.
And he said anti-Semitic.
I'll have to put the ADL reaction to this in the sources.
And I don't know what kind of deal
he did say anti-Semitic things before.
They made, but they definitely made a deal.
So let me get to that.
Oh, he's accusing the ADL and Elon Musk of making a deal, so the ADL won't call him a Nazi for this?
Okay, so
yeah,
go ahead.
So
maybe, I don't know.
First, before I get to the ADL, an Israeli publication that we actually report from often because they do great work, Haaretz, weighed in on this. And so Haaretz, this Israeli newspaper, described Musk delivering a Roman salute, a fascist salute, most commonly associated with Nazi Germany. So that's their take on it.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And by the way, Haaretz doesn't go around calling people Nazis and anti-Semites because they're very sensitive to that. Because anyone who's critical of Israel's government and how they carry out their war against Palestinians gets immediately labeled anti-Semitic, and they push back.
Yeah, I wonder, is she still principled on Palestine, or has the left made her change her position on that too?
Don't
right?
choke on that word.
Yeah, if Trump isn't a fascist, is Netanyahu still a fascist, right? If you understood that Trump was a fascist and now you don't think he's a fascist, right? Is Netanyahu no longer a fascist also? Maybe you just need to have your mind opened. You haven't met enough IDF soldiers, right? Maybe if a Palestinian assaults you or something, you'll realize that actually the IDF isn't fascist. I don't know. Actually, it's not a genocide, guys. Palestinians are dicks.
at. So they're not the type of people who just throw that label out on everyone. Now, the Anti-Defamation League, though, had a very different take. In a statement they wrote, "It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm."
Get them out of here.
Not a Nazi salute, but again.
So what does this tell you? Two Israel-aligned factions, we'll say, organizations, can have different opinions on whether or not something was a Nazi salute. And guess what? It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if they agree. It doesn't matter if they both think it's a Nazi salute. It doesn't matter if one does and one doesn't. And it doesn't matter if neither of them do, because we can still evaluate it and come to our own conclusion based on the evidence of the circumstances, right? Regardless of what other people think about it.
We appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath.
They're really standing up for the little guy here.
This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. Now, many were furious with that statement, including AOC.
Based.
Musk, though, responded.
I hope she deposes Chuck Schumer.
To AOC.
Usurps him.
On X by accusing.
Not deposes. That's our job. Her job is to usurp.
Calling her unhinged. Like, this is, he loves this. He lives for this. He revels in it.
Yeah, ADL is supposed to protect us from anti-Semitism in America, but they're doing no such thing.
Right, because it's not really about that, right? Like, it's not really about anti-Semitism. It's about anti-Israel sentiment.
Instead, their only mission now appears to be protect a different country, Israel. Forget Jews in America. Who cares about Jews in America? We have to protect Israel. And Elon Musk criticized Israel, then he went and kissed their ass. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if Elon Musk is financing the Anti-Defamation League now and they're getting money from him, or he said, oh, I'll help Israel with X or Y or Z. I don't.
Or it could be because he's the oligarch who's bankrolling the Trump administration. Trump also took tremendous money from Miriam Adelson to basically look the other way and let Israel do whatever they want. Yeah, in this case, Elon Musk, fascist, and the Israeli government, fascist, are both aligned in supporting the fascist that is Donald Trump.
I don't know. But I do know that the ADL that was deeply concerned about Elon Musk's anti-Semitism now is saying, Nazi salute on Inauguration Day. No big deal. What are you guys being so sensitive about?
Well, remember, he was being
right. This is evidence that the ADL is sort of like a facade for something, right? Like, they're not exactly about fighting anti-Semitism. They're not. They dropped the ball here. This is when people who are against anti-Semitism should stand up and say, fuck that Nazi, and not run cover for him. So it's not really about anti-Semitism with the ADL, is it?
Critical of how Israel was prosecuting the war on X. He was posting about it. Then he was pressured to go on that trip to Israel. He did go on that trip to Israel, and then he came back and he behaved like a good boy.
Yeah, Elon's been a very, very good boy, so he's allowed to do Nazi salutes. Thanks, ADL, for protecting us. Get out of here, man. The ADL has completely, utterly lost their way.
Utterly. I agree with Cenk.
They're Israel obsessed.
So what's the take here? So this has become an anti-ADL segment? No. The point is that Elon Musk is a Nazi who's doing a Nazi salute. Their position is that he did a Nazi salute on purpose, but he's just trolling, guys. Like, how about the Nazi shit that the Trump regime has been doing and the fact that he's a prominent member of that? Maybe that's also good evidence for him being a fascist, other than just the Nazi dog whistle. Maybe you look at it like it's circumstantial in conjunction with all of the other dozens of examples we have of him being a fascist.
And by the way, if you really wanted to protect against anti-Semitism, you would be focusing all of your energies on stopping Netanyahu, who's driving more anti-Semitism than I've ever seen in my life. He's getting the whole world to hate Israel and unfortunately to hate Jews worldwide. Are you doing anything about that? No, Netanyahu's the greatest. Kill more Palestinians.
Did they fuck over Cenk in some way? Like, were they critical of Cenk at some point? Yeah, I mean, fuck the ADL, but that's not the point of the video right now.
They used to be principled. So vote in the poll. I'm curious how you guys come out on it. But my sense of it is he did it on purpose. That's not an accident. It wasn't, oh golly gee, I just happened to do the identical Nazi salute.
Twice.
And with a very sharp, crisp extending of the elbow, right?
Twice, yeah.
Twice. Get out of here. Oh, well, nobody could have seen this coming. Thanks for watching The Young Turks.
An abrupt end to that video. We've got one more video and then we've got one other thing to look at. So of the fascism arc so far, we've seen Anna be a strong and fierce critic of fascism and willing to point out like fascist adjacent behavior all across the world. Then she gets attacked by a homeless man and the left is mean to her, and she becomes less sure of who the fascists are. That continues for a couple years until the election last year, when she's actively saying we can't call Trump a fascist, that he's not a fascist, and the reason he's not a fascist is even though he wishes he could be a fascist, he can't be, which is so fucking unhinged, because obviously he is not only a fascist but has intent to be a fascist, right? And just because he's not effective at it doesn't mean he's not a fascist, right? If someone shoots up a mall and they only manage to kill 2 people, they're still a mass shooter. So then, Trump gets reelected and Anna seems like she kind of has to walk back her Trump isn't a fascist thing, because we're seeing just extreme gratuitous fascism every day that we wake up in America since Trump's inauguration. Now, we have a video of the Young Turks. So Anna goes on and says, "You're right, I was wrong." What was she wrong about? We're going to find out. But she's conceding some points that she made mistakes. Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report again are going to respond to that. And then the Young Turks are going to react to their reaction of Anna walking back her shit. And then we are going to react to that. So we've got the final video here, some react content.
Cedar of the Majority Report thought it would be fun to put out a more than 18-minute long video chastising and mocking me for my willingness to admit that I was wrong, in part for downplaying the possibility of Donald Trump implementing Project 2025.
Oh God, this is the video I want DFF to make. You guys, we were wrong. Actually, he did do 2025 and it was really scary and you should have been worried the whole time. That's the video I want from them. Who knows?
Upon winning the election.
People have admitted that they made a mistake.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base, because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base.
No. So in Trump's first term, his big legislative accomplishment was the tax cuts, which fucked over his base, right? Unless you consider his base the oligarchy, then it was good for them. But for the average impoverished Trump retard, it was bad for them. They're just too stupid to realize it.
Seemed to listen to his base.
Wait a second. Wait. MAGA hates Project 2025?
Also, Project 2025 was written by MAGA. Several of the key members in Trump's administration in his first term were part of Project 2025.
Where's the evidence of that?
What is this MAGA that they speak of?
You know what?
Right, and as you and I know, and the people who have watched the channel know very well, the Project 2025 is MAGA, right? Like, that's real MAGA. That's Christian nationalist oligarch MAGA. And like I said, several of Trump's people in the Trump administration in his first term were part of drafting Project 2025. That's been linked before in my sources, so I'll just relink the same thing in this video too for you guys to look at if you want to.
Sam
also, if you
totally
want,
right.
You could pull up the Project 2025 tracker website.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sure. Time until end of term. So they have completed 41% of Project 2025 so far. 97 out of 312 we can see here. So, you know what? Let's do a separate video actually going over all this. I think we can do like a follow-up to Project. Well, I'm going to keep this in here for this part. But we can do like a follow-up of the 2025 video and go over this in detail. But yeah, fucking crazy.
It is he who understands the MAGA base better than anyone else. I mean, the guy goes out of his way to engage in dialogue with Trump voters. He seeks to understand where their hearts and minds are at. Here he is touting his openness to understanding people who vote differently than he does.
What?
We can't take the power back without talking to Trump voters and making them realize their mistake. Well, wait.
I mean, we could.
There's millions and millions of other people who need to be motivated to get into the fight.
Right. I mean, the largest block of voters are non-voters, right? So it is possible, and there's only, it is possible to take back the country by just convincing a few million of the dozens of millions of people who don't vote, of the hundreds of millions of people who don't vote. That's a lot easier than convincing a Nazi not to be a Nazi when that person is a Nazi for stupid, nonsensical reasons, right? If someone's irrational behavior led them, or complete sociopathy led them to being a fascist, you can't reason them out of fascism. You can't appeal to their morality to get them out of fascism, right? That's sort of a lost cause at this point. Why are we trying to get the worst people to realize why they're horrible instead of just appealing to the millions of people who aren't paying attention, who are probably decent people in some way, or who actually have actual valid concerns, who aren't in a fucking death cult at least, right? They're better in that sense. So it makes more sense to appeal to the few million people, at least the few million of the hundreds of millions of people who didn't vote, than to try to get some of the people who did vote for Trump. And I'm sure as you know, saying this, we can look at like even how Trump voters are turning on Trump, right? Since his reelection, since they do realize that they're on the slaughtering block, a lot of them have abandoned him. So, I mean, you could kind of do both actually too, I guess.
Is that I am coming from the Polymarket studios?
Okay, so they're bringing up Polymarket here, which I actually have something pulled on that we'll look at.
Insulting them and lumping them all together as the worst among them doesn't help either. I don't know when we have done that with all 78 million people, but I got news for you. The percentage of those who voted for Mitt Romney, they can suck my. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about any of that.
Astute analysis. There you have it. Sam Seder, noted expert on Trump voters.
So she's basically trying to attack Sam Seder for not being conciliatory enough to people who vote Republican.
He's attacking her people.
She's just trying to find things to attack him for, I guess, because he was critical of her like ignorant bullshit. So instead of defending her position and responding to the arguments and criticisms he made about that, she's going to try to find things that are completely irrelevant to this to criticize him for.
And has no interest in understanding why Trump would repeatedly deny supporting Project 2025 on the campaign trail. Was it to appeal to libs like Sam Seder? Or maybe it's because he knew his base.
Project 2025, I never heard of it. So basically she's saying, why would Trump pretend like he wasn't going to do Project 2025 if MAGA supported it? And he wasn't trying to appeal to MAGA at that point. He was trying to appeal to the general population, right? He was running in the general election. So that's why. That could be why, right? The reason why is because MAGA was already going to vote for him. The people that he was trying to win over were cautious of Project 2025. They weren't MAGA. They were the swing voters, right? So that's why.
Doesn't support large swaths of the policy agenda laid out in the project's 900.
Like the average MAGA dipshit even like gives a fuck about Project 2025 or has read a single paragraph of it.
100-page document. So to say that Trump is implementing Project 2025 isn't even fully accurate because, well, there's a lot of.
It's not fully accurate. It's only 41% accurate
so far.
Hold on, they can't see that. It's only 41% accurate, guys. It's not even half accurate.
That
almost half.
He doesn't agree.
Yeah, we'll get there maybe.
Agree with that's in that document, and said that he won't actually pursue after getting elected.
Like what? Like what? What did he say though?
Word.
He didn't say that though. He didn't say these specific things are crazy. He said they're extreme. These are extreme people. I know nothing about it. I don't know. I've never met Project 2025. I have no idea. Like that's not a specific thing he doesn't agree with. He didn't say, well, actually, I don't agree with Schedule F. I think it's very important that these civic workers do their duty, and that it's important that, we not restructure the federal government to be an autocracy. I think that's very valuable. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't say, I actually don't agree with cutting environmental regulations. Very bad, very bad. We need our forests. Like, this is a man who was already...
This was something he actually would say.
Yeah, but he didn't. This is a man who actively was selling American land to foreign business interests during his first term. I'll post that source again too. But like, this is so retarded.
For example, Project 2025 wants to eliminate every single tax bracket and replace it with just 2 brackets, 15% for anyone making under $168,000 annually, and 30% for those earning more than that. If this is the first time you're hearing about it,
what does that have to do with anything? And does Trump support that? Did he say he supported that or didn't support that?
it's because Trump hasn't mentioned it. And
yeah, because he hasn't read it either, probably. He doesn't give a shit either.
Talks about policy?
I know.
Ever on the campaign trail?
This is so retarded.
Likely to pursue it.
He's not.
And are we going to pretend like Trump read a 900-page document?
No.
He
no,
also
we're
said
not.
He'd end the wars day one.
Nobody
and
is
lower the egg prices.
Yeah, Trump lies all the time. Nobody is pretending he isn't. He's bankrolled by the same people who want Project 2025, though.
He does, however, plan to extend his 2017 tax cuts for individual filers. Trump also wants to lower the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%.
So that's also bad. Wait, what do you mean? Wait, actually, Trump doesn't want to lower taxes by this percent. He wants to lower it by this percent. It's like Trump wants to lower taxes. Actually, he wants to lower corporate taxes by 7% instead of 10%. What? Like, he still wants to do it. This is so retarded. You know, people are saying that Trump supports the tax code in Project 2025, but he actually supports a slightly different tax code that does the same thing.
Which...
What the fuck? How do you live with yourself, Anna? How do you look at yourself in the mirror when you're painting your face and say, like, I'm a good person, I'm doing good work, I'm being honest, I'm treating the moment of history I'm in with the importance that it deserves, I'm being responsible to my viewers, and I'm a responsible custodian of journalism and of my platform? I don't know. This is fucking wild.
You know what she says?
I've spoken out.
She says, Alchemist soil is the reason why I left the left.
Yep, totally.
Project 2025 also proposes cuts to Medicaid. What does Trump have to say about that?
Social Security won't be touched. Other than if there's fraud or something, we're going to find it's going to be strengthened. But
Social Security has been touched.
Unless you find some fraud.
Yeah, and they find fraud wherever they want.
Won't be touched. Medicare.
You can't see what the Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched. How many hundreds of billions of dollars did the Trump budget that was just passed cut Medicaid? Like $800 billion or something within the 2 months since this video came out. So yeah, actually, he's a big fat fascist liar. He lies. He's a fascist who lies. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, the fact that we're watching the Young Turks and they're using an interview of Trump, like, to point out, like, Trump is being honest is fucking wild. The Young Turks should know that Trump is dishonest, and anything he says in an interview isn't evidence for what he's going to do or his true convictions.
Medicaid.
Like, you didn't live through the last fucking decade we all lived through.
None of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
You don't have to. Now,
Sean Hannity sitting there, fucking stooge that he is, disgusting bitch boy for the fascists. We're not going to cut Medicare. No Medicaid's going to be cut. You're saying no Medicaid. No Medicaid. It's going to be beautiful. Bigger than ever.
if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out of the system and all of that fraud. But it's not going to be touched.
We are going to touch it, but we're not going to touch it. Like, even within that clip, he contradicted himself. How is that you? Like, look, guys, Trump said he wouldn't cut Medicaid. Here's a clip of him saying he won't cut it, but maybe he will cut it. And also, hey, guess what? They've cut it by $800 billion. Fuck these people. Nobody should get their news from the Young Turks. These people do not have, like, the intellectual integrity to honestly report to you what's happening. This is very clearly a grift of some sort. Why do I say it's a grift, huh? What financial incentive could they have to downplay the fascism of Trump?
I mean, well, look, touching Medicare or Medicaid, super unpopular. And maybe Trump is just saying that publicly while behind closed doors, he's telling Republicans who are currently working on a budget,
that they should totally slash Medicaid, right? Well,
right, that's what happened. Well, it turns out no, wrong. That's not what's happening. Really? Really? The Republican budget doesn't slash Medicaid?
It turns out, no, wrong. That's not what's happening. Trump had previously weighed in privately against cutting too heavily into Medicaid, telling House Republicans at a closed-door meeting earlier this month that he wants to be very careful with Medicaid.
Wait, okay, so then what the fuck? What the fuck? How? How then, if he said this, how did he cut $800 billion in Medicaid? How did the Republican House budget, how did it cut $800 billion in Medicaid if he said we're not going to cut Medicaid? One of those things is a fact that's happening. The other one is a con man lying to you. You should know this. This is not evidence that Trump is being honest. This Trump saying he's not going to cut Medicaid is not evidence that he's not going to cut Medicaid. It's the opposite, really. It's, hey, this person lies more than any other person we've ever fucking seen. We have observable fucking empirical facts of him lying. Evidence of him lying, lie after lie after lie after fucking lie, and because the left was mean to me, I suddenly lost my ability to remember that.
Public remarks on Hannity represented a broader and more forceful assertion of that red line. Nonetheless,
good job, Anna. You're doing your job. You're a useful idiot for fascism. You are listening to what the fascists say, right? And then you're repeating it to your audience, who are poised to be against the fascist, right? They're primed to be anti-fascist because you built your career off of being a progressive and pandering to progressives online. So they're already not going to like Trump. So either because you're too stupid and you don't realize you're doing it, you're taking Trump's lie and you're reporting it to your audience like it's fact, right? Or you know that he's lying because, hey, just like the rest of us, you've seen him lie constantly, and you understand that there's a Republican agenda to do this, and that already by this point in his presidency, this was only 2 months ago, so we were already over a month into his presidency, right? He was already cutting things that they said they weren't going to touch. So you should already know this. You should know this is a lie. This isn't evidence for him not doing it.
As Trump's agenda and Project 2025 do have a great deal of overlap, especially in regard to the dismantling of the administrative state, which his base actually does like. But how could anyone be in favor of scaling back on government agents?
Because they're fucking retarded. They're dipshits. They're ignorant. They don't realize what these government agencies do. They don't understand that now, when they go to a grocery store or a restaurant, they can't be sure of what they're eating is safe or not. They don't understand that. They're too fucking retarded. They're too fucking retarded to understand what the Consumer Financial Protection Agency does. That's why.
Agencies that are.
It's also why populism isn't the answer, guys. There's a distinction between democracy and populism, and you should be pro-democracy. Populism is not always a good thing.
Full to the brim with unelected career bureaucrats who get to create.
In democracy, there are certain safeguards that protect against the tyranny of the majority. But this is why there needs to be safeguards and institutional strongholds that can resist a population being idiot fascists. That's important.
Their own policies and rules. How?
It's important that we don't let people's individual rights or the rights of minorities be determined by popular consensus.
How could this be?
A scathing review of the CDC, finding the agency repeatedly botched its pandemic response and failed to meet the moment of crisis. The CDC long under fire.
Wait a second. How could the CDC, why are these smart MAGA people, why are they so skeptical of government agencies? Because this one government agency during Trump's presidency botched COVID. Because you have the CDC trying to do their job, and then you had Trump doing daily press conferences that were contradicting everything they were saying. So, I mean, their skepticism of the CDC is really skepticism of the ineptitude of Trump's regime.
For its guidance on masking and vaccines over the last 2 years.
It's just really confusing.
There are more than...
Yeah, maskings and vaccines were a good thing. I love how we've rewritten history to make it seem like actually the conspiracy theorists had a point. No, they didn't.
10,000 chemicals and additives allowed in food in the U.S., often in small amounts, but many have not been evaluated by the FDA in...
Right. Who deregulated the FDA? The last time Trump was president, they deregulated the pork packing industry that led to a listeria outbreak.
decades.
This is why, okay, so if they're saying like, hey, the FDA is not regulating properly, they're not doing their job well enough, they need more funding, they need more oversight, the answer to that is not, well, let's get rid of them, let's cut them, let's get rid of the fucking failing safeguards so that we have no safeguards, right? That's the opposite of what you should do. This is the test that the Trump voter fails, right? They see the government, the FDA, they don't regulate food as good as they should. Let's get rid of them entirely instead of funding them, or really getting rid of agency capture, right? Agency capture that causes these bureaucracies to get lobbied by the corporations they're supposed to be regulating, which is the Republican agenda and which is the agenda of Project 2025.
The majority are safe, but some chemicals allowed here have been banned overseas after research has linked them to cancer and developmental or behavioral issues.
Is the food industry basically policing itself?
I would say yes. 45% of the FDA's overall budget now comes from the companies it's reviewing. And
right, yeah, this is agency capture. And now Anna smugly with this stupid face is going to say, whoopsies, you guys, actually government agencies are bad and MAGA is right to want to cut them because agency capture is a problem. No, that again, that's a misdiagnosis of the issue. The issue is not that these government agencies, they're corrupt, so they should be destroyed and cut. The problem is that these government agencies are corrupt, so we need to regulate them and we need to get rid of Citizens United and other avenues that allow for corporations to influence politics through big dollar donations, right? And through legalized bribery. That's what we need to do. We need to strengthen the agencies against the ways that they are weak. Not just do this is so retarded. All the reasons she just mentioned are the ways that corporations have been waging war against your representation to make sure that these agencies do their bidding instead of your bidding, right? That was the montage that she just played. And the solution to that seems to be what she's purporting here and what the average MAGA voter who wants agencies cut, what they're saying is, well, let's just get rid of the agencies entirely, which is what the people who are trying to weaken them and who are paying the agencies to be corrupt want to. Let's make it easier for them to poison us, is the argument you're making here with your stupid smug face.
Now, if you watch Beavis and Butthead on the Vanguard YouTube channel,
hey, shout out to the Vanguard,
which the majority report hilariously treats as some authoritative source, you'd think that TYT is totally in favor of the Trump.
You ever watch the Vanguard?
If I have, it was on clips from other shows.
Okay, they're pretty funny.
Administration.
I enjoy them.
Gutting.
But also, they smoke weed and like David Lynch, so it's kind of up my alley.
Federal agencies. Except we're not. Two things can be true at the same time. These
Paul does too, but...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I guess you need more than that.
Agencies have been deeply corrupted, do engage in waste, and should be reformed.
I feel like Paul is a fake David Lynch fan. This video is not about that. He didn't like The Return. That should tell you everything you need to know about him. You guys, it's too dark for me. So has he not seen Mulholland Drive? Has he not seen Lost Highway? Those are
seen any art.
Those are dark. Isn't Blue Velvet super dark? Like that. Out of all David Lynch's movies, Blue Velvet probably disturbs me the most because of the fucking Dennis Hopper rape scene. I don't know. Have I already mentioned that on here?
I have no idea what's cut and what's kept in.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Workforce as if they're Twitter employees is a disastrous way to handle it, as we've been learning in recent weeks. But let's hear what Emma has to say about my on-air correction.
It is not the prediction. People make predictions all the time.
Right, I was wrong in my prediction about the election, but
Polymarket bet here.
Yeah.
We're not making a Polymarket bet. That's enough of that, though. So it's come up a couple times throughout the course of this video. Polymarket has been mentioned, right? Polymarket Studio. What is that? What is Polymarket? We're about to find out what Polymarket is and why it's relevant to the overall point of this video, and how does Polymarket have to do with Anna's sudden and Cenk's sudden abrupt deference towards MAGA and to populist right movements.
Live from the Polymarket Studios. What is this?
Wow.
The Polymarket Studios, hold on, I thought that they did from Rebel headquarters, right? Doesn't the Young Turks broadcast from Rebel headquarters? Why are they broadcasting from Polymarket Studio? What's that?
Well, we got a new sponsor, Polymarket, and...
The way he says that and Anna's face throughout this whole segment is just beautiful.
What they do is tell you basically the odds of anything in the real world happening. So it's the world's largest prediction market.
So Polymarket is a cryptocurrency casino, right? It's where you can go, not you or me, because we're in America and it's outlawed in America, but most people can go to Polymarket and place bets with cryptocurrency on just about anything in the world.
And it has things like, hey, who's going to win, Biden or Trump? We'll come back to that in a second. How many tweets is Elon Musk going to do?
So he just said Biden or Trump, right? And that's interesting because this video came out on May 1st, 2024. Remember May 2024, that's important, okay?
Do in the next 24 hours. It's hilarious. I love it. I think it's a perfect sponsor for us. And obviously we'll be telling you a lot more about it going forward. tyt.com/polymarket. To find out who they are, their relationship with us, etc. You can look all into it.
I actually didn't look at that. Let's see. tyt.com/polymarket. Wait a second. This redirected to the Young Turks homepage? What's going on? Wait a second. This is just a live broadcast of their show.
Oh, they're going live in 2 minutes?
This isn't information about Polymarket, is it?
Can't skip forward and live.
No, I guess not. I think they're just restreaming whatever they did today, or maybe there's a new show. But tyt.com/polymarket it just resends you to the TYT homepage, right? For streaming. It doesn't tell you anything about Polymarket. This happened a year ago.
I want to learn.
Yeah. Hold on. Can we not find anything about Polymarket on their website? About.
Control F.
Yeah. No. No, there's no mentions of Polymarket on here. Announcements. Anything about Polymarket? Nope. What about people? Oh, these are just I feel like we should have Peter Thiel on here somewhere, but whatever. Announcements. Press. Polymarket. Nope, nothing. So, I don't know, maybe someone can find what they say about Polymarket on their website. I can't find it, so, Anyways, back to the video.
You'll be hearing that throughout the rest of the year. I love that they bought the sponsorship for the studio, and we appreciate them. Turns out they're longtime viewers of the Young Turks. So
Polymarket bought the studio. They sponsored the studio, so they had to change their name of their studio to Polymarket Studio.
Love it, can't get enough of it. We appreciate them.
Okay. Now, this is all going to come full circle for us. But first, let's read a little bit about Polymarket. Founded in 2020, Polymarket, it's a crypto-based prediction market headquartered in Manhattan. It offers a platform where investors can place bets on various future events like election outcomes, whatever, including economic indicators, weather patterns, awards, blah, 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 blah. Participants can deposit USDC cryptocurrency through the Polygon blockchain network and trade shares that represent the likelihood of specific outcomes occurring in the future. Polymarket has blocked access to U.S. customers since 2022 following a settlement with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which accused the company of running an unregistered derivatives trading platform, which seems to be true. Now, the reason that it's interesting to me, in May 2024, right, which if you remember that video we just watched was published on May 1st, 2024. So in May 2024, the company announced that it had raised $70 million across 2 funding rounds. These rounds included investments from the founder of Ethereum and from Founders Fund, a venture capital firm founded by Peter Thiel. And so we've talked a bit about Peter Thiel before in the videos. Peter Thiel is an oligarch. Similar to Musk, he's a devotee of Curtis Yarvin. So pretty soon here, we're going to be doing a deep dive into Curtis Yarvin. But essentially, they are neo-monarchists who are anti-democracy. And so, these are the sort of people, when we're talking about Peter Thiel, we are talking about an oligarch. We are talking about someone in the same sort of strata as Elon Musk, as Mark Zuckerberg, who are the enemies of democracy right now. So here's an article from Forbes. Peter Thiel invests in Polymarket, a political betting platform, but the future of gambling on elections remains unclear. So this article came out on May 14th, 2024. So this is all happening in May of 2024. This is Peter Thiel here. in case anyone's not familiar with him. Founders Fund, the venture capital firm founded by Thiel, also invested in SpaceX and Facebook, was the lead investor, said the Polymarket founder Shane Copland. So he's a huge investor in Polymarket. He's the lead investor. He invested $70 million around this time. Now, here's another news story about Polymarket that came out last year. This was on November 5th, Election Day, about Polymarket paying US-based influencers to promote election betting. Polymarket is paying US-based social media influencers to promote election betting on its sites, despite the fact that the federal regulators have banned Americans from wagering on the platform, according to a report. So, several influencers have posted content sponsored by Polymarket, like the Young Turks, right? And so we're going to see now our final video here, which is going to bring everything full circle for us. Cenk Uygur is going to be promoting this right now.
That's your time to recall them. And I'm furious with Karen Bass. And I'm not sure I'd go in that direction. But anyway, so I checked to see what others thought and which way, they're putting their money where their mouth is, right? 52% chance they think that she will be out as mayor of LA in 2025.
So here he's talking about different Polymarket bets. So he's trying to get people to go to Polymarket and to bet on things, right? He's doing one of the sponsorships.
That is sky high. The election's in 2026. So folks that are actually, putting money on the line here think, yeah, they'll recall her. And I think it moved up to 53 as I was talking. That's amazing. Anyway, that they'll recall her. So like I said, I'm not a big fan of the recalls, but if anybody's going to get recalled, Karen Bass is a good candidate for it.
So he's talking about the mayor of LA who might be recalled because of the terrible response to the fires here at the start of the year. This video is from January 2025. So they're still doing Polymarket sponsorships. Now, the funny thing is that I believe, and we might get into it, that the Polymarket sponsorship ended on Inauguration Day. So from May of 2024 until January of this year. So basically during the election up until Inauguration Day is when they were receiving Polymarket money.
In fact, there's another one that they have on polymarket.com where it's 15% chance that she's going to be removed before April. So out as mayor of LA before April, and they got that as high as 15%. I think it's a little ambitious.
So she has not been as of this May 2025, as far as I know, unless that happened and I didn't pay attention, but I don't believe so.
So look, I see a comment here. Polymarket is skewed right. Guys, they're putting their money on the line. These are all individual bettors. Like this, I know there was this.
So we're about to get into it, but the people who are putting money on the line are crypto investors, some of whom can influence the outcomes of these things also, right? So he might say it in a second, but for example, there's a bet on how many times a day Elon Musk is going to tweet, which, if you're Elon Musk and you're a big crypto investor, you can manipulate that bet and just make money on your own tweets, right?
Conspiracy theory that Polymarket's rigging it to make it seem like Trump's going to win. But when Trump actually did win is when you realize that that was a theory and not true. The people who bet on Trump didn't do it because they thought this will help Trump cheat. They did it because they wanted to win money, and they did because they were right. Now that sucks.
Right, but here's the other thing too, like that industry, right? The crypto industry is greatly invested in Trump's candidacy and in his presidency. Elon Musk spent hundreds of millions of dollars to get Donald Trump elected. They helped him do Trump Coin, which was a giant crypto rug pull, which still to this day can be a way that he launders money received from foreign governments for corruption. So, I mean, we can do a whole episode on Trump Coin maybe in the future and what happened with that. But the crypto industry, I guess we could call it for now, is heavily invested in Trump and was heavily invested in Trump's success in this election cycle. A lot of this was due to efforts by the Biden administration to crack down on crypto trading, which, a lot of people view as a scam. I sort of view it as a scam, but not like a horribly immoral scam. I guess full disclosure, back in during the pandemic, I made quite a bit of money on Doge coin, not Doge as we know it today, but Doge coin during that time. But it was totally a scam. It was totally like you get in and then you take out when it's at the top, and then everyone, you know, there's millions of people left holding the bag who lose money. It's sort of like you're riding a wave and hoping you get lucky. And in that one specific instance, I was lucky. But, you know, I'm a bit mixed on cryptocurrency. Like gambling in general, I think like maybe we should have certain regulations on it to do harm reduction, but I'm not for outlawing cryptocurrency or crypto betting or anything like that. But even though I have that more liberal view on it, I guess I can still point out that there is an insidious element to it, and that a lot of people are uninformed and they do lose a lot of money doing it. And also, you know, these crypto investors are unscrupulous people a lot of the times who have an agenda to unduly influence our government or other world governments with their wealth.
For us, and I didn't want Trump to win, but that's what happened. So let's not become like the right wing and get conspiratorial and go down rabbit holes and like, no, these are people. And by the way, 85% are betting that she's not going to be out before April. And by the way, she's not going to be out before April.
He's basically saying like, even though Polymarket had like voted, you know, had ideas that like Trump was going to win or whatever, that doesn't mean that they were like rigging the election or wanted Trump to win. It just means that they thought Trump would win. And I mean, again, like, I think that we can kind of, you know, you can look at the way it might be interesting to do a deep dive into how Polymarket does skew things or what the influence of the Polymarket investors are. We know that Peter Thiel had a huge influence, still does, on the Trump administration. And he was the biggest investor in Polymarket during this time. So why would it's sort of like, why would he invest? You know, why is he investing unless he thinks it's a good investment, right?
So if you think it's rigged, great, then go bet the other side. You make money. Doesn't make any sense. You can't rig things in real life. She's either going to be out as mayor by April or 2025, or she's not. So Polymarket doesn't run the world. They can't be like, ooh, now Karen Bass, you will leave, so 3 bettors can win.
Right. I mean, maybe it's not that directly, right? But the investors of Polymarket do have undue influence in our government. Peter Thiel specifically, the person from whom you take money from, right? Like, and so this is him, like, just like a smarmy douchebag trying to sort of take some of the heat off of Polymarket here at the end of their relationship.
I know. A lot of folks in the ecosystem like to come up with these theories and then go, don't watch DYT, just subscribe to us, pay us. I know, brother.
So this is kind of his cope. He's talking about the Vanguard and like the Majority Report, like, you know, some of the channels we've watched during this video who are more critical of Cenk and Anna and TYT. He's saying that like they're leading you astray. It's not what they say. They're just they're alarmists. They're just doing a grift to steal our audience from us, basically. This is his way of excusing away their diminishing numbers in the wake of Anna's shameful turn towards leaving the left.
Brothers and sisters, I know. Okay. So, and look, man, Polymarket has been a sponsor for a while now. It ends actually on Inauguration Day. And they spared a lot of jobs at TYT and a lot of money that other people could have contributed. So I'm thankful for it. And I've never seen any of those conspiracy.
So what he's saying there is that Polymarket came in and saved their dying company, basically. That he saved a lot of jobs at TYT. Polymarket came in and kept them afloat through what should have been their most successful year because it's an election year, right? Like, that should be like the time where you make your bank as a political channel like this, right? Seems like the other 3 years are sort of gearing up for that. It's like the Olympics or something. But the point is, you know, Polymarket comes in and suddenly Anna has a much quicker leaving the left arc, right? And Cenk, who spent months calling Trump a fascist, going on Piers Morgan, screaming about it, now has this idea of working with the right when they'll meet us where we are. Like, he sort of ceased hostilities. He had Marjorie Taylor Greene on last week to basically sane wash her to his audience because she also doesn't support the Iran war, allegedly, which is probably bullshit, but yeah.
Conspiracy theories be proven true. It's just the most obvious, blatant.
It's gross that you take crypto money from one of the oligarchs and then you start cozying up to all these right-wing assholes, right?
False things. In fact, it's actually super embarrassing at this date, you're saying, oh, Polymarket had a conspiracy to help Trump cheat, when we all know he didn't cheat and he won. How are you not embarrassed to still say that? All right.
No, that's not the conspiracy, right? That's not what people, I don't know if people are saying that. I think that what Cenk is trying to do is he's trying to malign his critics as having this conspiracy, when the criticisms are basically what I've already elucidated for you, right? That he received shady money from a crypto oligarch. That's the criticism. And then that comes along with his change in messaging throughout the election and into Trump's second term. So instead of acknowledging those criticisms, he says, like, people think there's a conspiracy that Polymarket cheated the election, which isn't true. That's not the case. I've never seen evidence of that. Maybe some people have some conspiracies, but that's not the main criticism of them. We're critical of them because they took the money and because now their messaging has changed.
Right. If you want to be Alex Jones on the left, that's up to you. God bless. Anyways, Karen Bass has done a terrible job here. And
that's pretty much it about Polymarket. So final thoughts on what we've witnessed this evening. We've seen Anna Kasparian here go from being an intensely sharp critic of fascism, one of the people ringing the bells, saying that the fascists are coming, critical of Trump throughout his first term. Then she's assaulted, and because the left is cruel to her in their reaction, certain members of the left who she had already been fighting with on Twitter, since they're cruel to her and unsympathetic to her when she's telling the story of her sexual assault, that means in her mind that the left is wrong, right? She questions her political ideology, which shows us that her ideology was based basically on groupthink, right? On that hive mind tribalism that says, like, these people support me, therefore I agree with them politically, instead of, I have these political beliefs and people who share them may or may not be my allies, but if they are my allies, it's because we have the same principles, right? Not because they take my side or they treat me fairly. So I think that just speaks to how unethical and duplicitous Anna is. And she doesn't have that intellectual integrity or that moral integrity, that consistency that you would look for in a political voice, right? In a pundit or in a journalist, really. So then she goes on and she argues with Cenk about fascism. She says that Trump actually isn't fascist. So now that she's had her arc, she says Trump isn't fascist because he failed at doing the most fascist things in his first term, which of course Trump had intent to be fascist. He attempted to do those things. Specifically, they were talking about firing upon the protesters during BLM. It doesn't matter if he actually succeeded in firing on the protesters. He attempted to do it. He had a will to do it. So in that one example, he is a fascist. And Anna's argument of you're only fascist if you succeed in your fascism is just laughable. That's like saying, you're only a liar if you successfully tell a lie, right? Which is silly. You can fail at lying all the time and still be a liar. It's all about intent and what you intend to do, what your will is. It's a kind of a pathetic story here. We see a grifter for what they are, right? When there's this paradigm shift in politics, you see which commentators have integrity, which commentators stick to their guns and stick to their principles. And, you have Kyle Kulinski, you have Sam Seder, pundits, commentators like that. And then you have people like Anna. She's amorphous, right? She says she's not on the left. She's undefined. She's unaligned. She has no actual principles other than finding what the truth is, which of course is silly, the feigned ignorance that she displays throughout this whole pathetic character arc of hers. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you guys for going on this journey with me. This is a video I wanted to make, for some time. I do want to do more of these videos analyzing the positions and the platforms of other commentators other than just, the people we usually talk about. So I do hope you enjoyed this video. Later.